and welcome to the new series of Drishti IAS. I am Pooja, and in this segment today we are going to discuss about the deteriorating situation of economy in Pakistan. Like Sri Lanka, what mistakes did Pakistan make that led to its economic crisis that it is in today? So first of all, let us have a look on the topics that we are going to brief ourselves with. The news, what is actually happening in Pakistan, why is Pakistan in such an economic crisis, what are the initiatives that have been undertaken by the Pakistan government to resolve those issues. Also, what is the purpose of extended fund facility that has been provided by the International Monetary Fund, what more is needed, and what will be the impacts, what might be the impacts of it on India. So let us begin with the first thing here, that is prelims and mains focus. Prelims focus, mainly we have to deal with IMF and extended fund facility. Also do your homework with respect to extended fund facility and IMF as well. GS mains papers 2nd and 3. Second is with respect to international relations. Third is with respect to internal security and the developments that are there in the economy as a whole of such countries which are neighboring India. Okay. Moving on, if we are going to talk about the news is very harrowing, specifically in this time when we see that Sri Lanka is going through a similar crisis. Pakistan cabinet has approved ordinance to sell states' assets to foreign countries. That means in order to pay its loan, it is selling its state assets, such as oil and gas companies. Moving on, if we are going to deal with what is happening with Pakistan, what is happening in Pakistan, these are the important issues. Now, Pakistan, it currently sits at number 4 in Bloomberg's sovereign debt vulnerability ranking. That means it is very prone to defaulting its loans. That means it has taken huge loans from foreign countries and now it is unable to pay the principal as well as the interest. The country's debt, it stands at 71.3% of the GDP. Foreign exchange reserves are depleted. And specifically, this has been deteriorated by the Russian-Ukraine war, which led to the inflation that the world is in today. Also, that was because of the rise in the crude oil prices. Okay, Pakistan's external debt and liabilities, it has risen to $128 billion at the end of March, and it will have to pay, Pakistan will have to pay $21 billion to international lenders for external debt servicing in the current financial year, which it is unable to pay because of its short-sighted monetary policies, specifically with respect to non-developmental projects which have been invested a lot in, but they are not giving good returns for debt servicing. Debt servicing means whenever you are going to take loans, you are going to pay interest, right? So that is servicing of the debt. Now, what is happening in Pakistan again? Petrol costed about 150 rupees per litre in April. Now, this has risen to 250 rupees per litre as we discuss it. It is having an inflation of, Pakistan is having an inflation of 21.3%. Now, it's not just Pakistan. Many, even developed countries such as the US, they are having high inflation. But the thing is, they have enough assets to back their inflation. That is not the case with countries such as Pakistan and Sri Lanka. The State Bank of Pakistan data past 10 years has suggested that FDI inflows into Pakistan never exceeded 1% of GDP. That means it was never, in the last 10 years, it was never a very attractive place for foreign investment. Whatever investment it took, it was from China. And it is in the notorious debt trap where it is taking more loans to pay off the old loans. Now, it is trapped in the debt trap. Like this is Saudi Arabia, this is China, and this is Pakistan. In order to take, China supposedly gave loan to Pakistan, and in order to now pay China, it is taking loan from Saudi Arabia. It also might have to take the loan by country X in order to pay Saudi Arabia. Again, has to take loan from Y in order to pay to X. So this is a debt trap where you cannot get away from the trap you have made for yourself by taking loans to pay off old loans. Okay, moving on. Now we talk about Intergovernmental Commercial Transaction Ordinance that has empowered a committee to sell off the assets of the state in order to pay the loans off. So this ordinance has barred the courts of the countries not to entertain any petition against the sale of assets. So if I want to file a petition in the court saying why the state is selling state assets, it might also have an impact on the economy as a whole, then on me, but that won't be challenged according to this particular ordinance. Also, it has empowered the state to sell the stakes of oil and gas companies and government-owned power plants to the UAE. Okay, and that is $2 billion to $2.5 billion of worth of the whatever loan it might have taken from the UAE. Then, mechanism has also been provided under this ordinance to carry out a commercial transaction under an intergovernmental framework agreement. It has a mechanism to promote, attract, and encourage foreign states to have economic and business relations with Pakistan. Now, Pakistan had a very small basket of trade relations. One was with China, somewhat it was having a trade relation with Saudi Arabia, but not more than that, not more lucrative business partners it could attract apart from these two. Cabinet Committee on the Intergovernmental Commercial Transactions has been established, and this has been done by overriding the Companies Act, Securities and Exchange Commission Act, Privatization Ordinance and other relevant laws. So you can see the desperateness of Pakistan through this ordinance, how much sweeping powers have been given to the Cabinet Committee on Intergovernmental Commercial Transactions through this. Now, reasons are very simple. Because of short-sightedness policy decision, it has made investment into non-developmental and economically unviable projects. Examples are very simple. The Gwadar-Kashgar railway line, which has been developed, but it could not generate a lot of return. I might buy a plot of land for crores of rupees, but if I am unable to generate revenue from that 1 crore rupee worth plot of land, what is the entire point? Then China-Pakistan Economic Corridor is another very controversial project that has been undertaken by Pakistan. Chinese debt of US $64 billion, it was basically given to Pakistan with respect to these projects. But earlier when Pakistan calculated the debt, it was just $47 billion during 2014. So of course, because of these short-sighted policies, Pakistan is in a mess that it has created for itself, of course. The persistent fall in Pakistani rupee against the US dollar made the imports very expensive and exports cheaper. And of course, that is one of the reasons that it has gained low ranking by international rating agencies. And that is why it is not a very attractive destination for investment. Grey listing has been done of Pakistan in the Financial Action Task Force, which was formulated FATF in 1989 in order to check those countries which are financing terror and doing money laundering. So all these issues are with respect to investment, ever increasing import bills and falling exports, and that is also because of the COVID-19 pandemic took a toll on very important export industries of Pakistan, such as cement, textiles, leather and sports goods. So that was all. It all came to a halt, and Pakistan's trade deficit touched its all-time high before that only. That also US $37.7 billion in the 2018 fiscal year. And instability, sorry for the spelling mistake, instability of the government, the political structure is such that it is constantly inheriting bad economic policies of one government after the other. So for the people to have economic satisfaction, political stability is also much needed. So that is also an issue. Moving on, the global crude oil prices, as I told you earlier only, that had increased and are still increases, are also one of the issue because they are adding to the per unit cost of goods and services that the people are taking there. Now, what has the government done so far? On 30th November 2021, Pakistan signed an agreement with Saudi Arabia, Saudi Fund for Development, to receive $3 billion. Again, took a loan, debt trap from there only. Earlier also in 2013, 16 and 18, Pakistan sought external financial aid And now not many countries are willing to give loans to Pakistan because they are knowing that it is going to default. Now, International Monetary Fund, UAE and China are some of the agencies that lent to Pakistan. Moving on, if we are going to talk about IMF and Pakistan, now Pakistan on July 14 this year reached a staff level agreement in order to take on the extended fund facility by the IMF, which was stalled, and Pakistan will get a first tranche of $1.17 billion in the upcoming days by the IMF. Okay, and there are certain pointers that we have to remember from the perspective of prelims with respect to IMF. That is, it wants serious medium-term balance of payment problems break. Now, what is extended fund facility? Now, whenever there is a need to address serious medium-term balance of payment problems, that is because of structural weakness, not something that is very superficial, but deep-rooted. The policies might be so bad that they are structurally wrong. So, if because of that medium-term issues, they prop up, it has to be done well by the extended fund facility. A standby agreement is a part of the extended fund facility. Assistance under external arrangement feature for longer, like they can also have a structuring of the debt, maybe not pay it in this much amount, but you can also have the flexibility of paying a certain amount at first, then later certain amount. And they can also give you a longer repayment time. Earlier you might have taken a loan for repaying in 2 years, now you can get it for 5 years, like that. Okay, and longer engagement and repayment periods, this is one of the features of the EFF. Extended arrangement, normally it is done for 3 years, but it is extendable to 4 years as well. Amounts drawn under EFF are to be repaid over 4.5 to 10 years in 12 semi-annual installments. This can be a pointer for prelims. Okay, and by contrast, credits under the standby agreements are repaid over 3.5 to 5 years. So this is the main feature. Moving on, strong focus has to be done on structural arrangements, like revenue model should be maintained in such a manner that constantly loan has to be, and loan doesn't have to be taken from outside agencies, foreign agencies, and try to have a system where taxation policies are such that you are able to get your revenue, and projects should be developed in such a manner that they are able to generate employment and revenue, not something that is very hollow. The IMF's executive board, it regularly assesses the program's performance, and also it is able to be very flexible with respect to what kind of flexibility is needed in an economy to become better. Okay, and what more needs to be done? Now, just getting loan from another agency to repay the loan of some country is not the answer, right? So, deeper structural reforms such as taxation should be done in such a manner that revenue can be generated from taxation. Investment should be done in a manner that it generates employment and revenue and give, it's a chain reaction. Everything is a chain reaction. If more and more developmental projects are undertaken, then we might be able to reach to a point then that the economy becomes self-sufficient. And fiscal policy reforms are needed, as I told you, domestic revenue generation, and certain times, because in the upcoming times Pakistan will have its elections, so it is not taking any unpopulist measures. It is even cutting certain amount of taxes on the petrol, which is taking a toll on the public exchequer. So such unpopulist measures should be taken that might not make a government win elections, but take the economy out of the abyss, right? Moving on, if we talk about the impacts of India, now first of all, there is a link between Sri Lanka and Pakistan with respect to how unsustainable and how opaque the loans that have been given to them are there. Because of such unsustainable debts, they are not able to service this debt, although many other countries have also lent them loans. But the problem is that China is just pumping money for its own betterment and not the betterment of the economy. And the inability of the developed countries that is there to help the South Asian countries in the times of war, in the times of crisis, has opened out the chasm that is between the West countries and the South Asian countries. We need better loan structures and better loan and debt servicing structures to be provided for the economies of South Asia. Pakistan has not reached out to India for obvious reasons. Now, if the economic crisis deepens, then it might happen that refugee crises occur, people start migrating towards the porous borders of India, and it can also generate instability in Kashmir. And India should basically not look at the ties with Pakistan at this point of time from a very skeptical point of view, but try to empathize with Pakistan, because we need stable neighbors. Then only we will be able to generate stable relations with them, right? Moving on, now let us talk about our question. How are Sri Lanka and Pakistan manifesting the link between Chinese debt and the economic crises they are in? What can India do in this regard? Okay, so that's it. Thank you so much for watching. We shall meet again soon.